full steam ahead to the Buckeyes and kind of get back into that game week flow.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good matchup, obviously. I mean, I think Miles Kitselman said it the best. I mean, he's got playoff experience. You don't play bad teams during this time, and that's the case with Tennessee. And I know they're looking forward to the opportunity and the challenge that's ahead of them. And Austin, it's a real challenge. I mean, it's a good Ohio State team. I know the last visual everybody has of Ohio State is Michigan when they did not play well, but outside of that game, they played pretty well all season long. So there's a lot of challenges that they present, but as Dylan Sampson also said, there's some opportunities, particularly in the run game.
There are opportunities, and Ohio State's a really good football team, and they could easily be undefeated right now. I mean, you look at how they played, on the road at Oregon. You look at the home loss to Michigan. Now, that's a head scratcher as a 3-touchdown favorite, but I think that for the most part, like this is a team that's could easily be undefeated, but they've also kind of barely won at Penn State, which again is a nice road win, right? That's a tough place to play. They gutted that one out. They struggled through a game against Nebraska. So like they've had moments where they've not been playing their best football. So I'm not sure they played their best football all year. Could that be against Tennessee on Saturday night? It sure could. But this is a really well-rounded Ohio State football team. Defensively, obviously, they got all the accolades and stats to back them up. And offensively, they've got playmakers all over the field.
Rob, when you look at Ohio State, I mean, Tennessee, very, very similar teams in terms of they want to run the football. Tennessee's had more success in running the football, but want to run the football. Defensively, they both do a great job of stopping the run. They're both really good on third downs. They're both really good in the red zone. Offensively for Ohio State in the red zone, very efficient, the best red zone scoring offense in the playoffs, whereas Tennessee's defense, is really, really good in that regard. Tennessee's offense in that regard is 11th out of 12 playoff teams. But nonetheless, two pretty similar teams on paper. How is Tennessee going to try to attack Ohio State this weekend on the road, hostile environment in the college football playoffs?
I mean, not to say anything that nobody else, I mean, probably a lot of other people are going to say, but I think it starts, with the run. I mean, the run defense, especially. And I think that plays into Tennessee's hands. I mean, Ohio State's been really good. They've got two dynamic tailbacks, without question, in Judson and Henderson. But, continuity issues on the offensive line. I'm not saying that, they don't have talent there, but, they've got some injuries. It's not an ideal situation for them. And just as good as Tennessee has been all year long, I mean, I would expect them to, hold Ohio State to 20 yards rushing, but I think Tennessee dictates that matchup. And I think that's, they've got to dictate that matchup to win. I mean, Ohio State has fantastic talent at wideout, but it's young. And, the quarterback is, I mean, he's a system guy. He's not a big time playmaker. And again, not rocket science. A lot of people are going to say it, but you put that offense in a lot in 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7s, 3rd and 8s. I mean, I think that's where you want to live if you're Tennessee and you feast on that.
I think defensively, obviously, it starts with stopping the run, and that's something you just mentioned, Rob. But getting Ohio State in 3rd and mid with the injuries on the offensive line, and something we've discussed this week. This has been a good week for Ohio State to kind of practice with the same 5 guys on the offensive line and try to figure out what route they're going to go. We know about the Remington Award winner. He's not going to be playing. He's been out the last couple of weeks. Another starting offensive lineman's out. For Tim Banks in this defense, you got to feel like what an opportunity to put pressure on that offensive line, try to shut down the run game as much as you can, but really try to accelerate the clock for Will Howard to force some bad decisions like he did against Michigan. And you hope that opportunity is there with some banged-up offensive linemen. If you're Tim Banks and Tennessee's defensive line and Rodney Gardner, you should be licking your chops right now.
Well, I think you got to win first down, as Rob said, and you said. I mean, I think when you look at this matchup, first down may be the biggest key in all of it for both sides of the ball. We're all talking about how cold it's going to be. Nobody's talked about the wind. What's the wind factor going to be in this game, and how does that affect the game and the ability to throw the football in any way, shape, or form? And how do both these teams attack on early downs? Are you going to be really, really predictable with first down runs and get yourself behind the chains? Who's going to be creative with some different things in the run game? But yeah, I mean, if you get into 3rd and long situations, I think that's a chance for Tennessee's defensive front and Tim Banks and Rodney Garner's group to get really active. I think the same thing could be said on the other side of the ball. It's not like Tennessee has just been a wall up front and pass protection. They've given up a bunch of pressures too. Now they didn't against Vanderbilt, because Vanderbilt in the first half chose not to even try to pressure, and pressured a little bit in the second half. But Tennessee, blocked a Vanderbilt defensive front up, well. I don't think that's a great Vanderbilt front. I think Ohio State's front's much better. So how do teams attack in early downs to avoid third and long? I think it's one of the intriguing parts of this matchup going into Saturday night.
Austin, certainly the calendar's unique right now, and you got players leaving via the transfer portal, your team recruiting players out the transfer portal, and we'll talk about that specifically here in a moment. But Tennessee's lost some players, lost a running back, lost a lot of reserves. Chaz Nimrod is in the transfer portal. Caleb Webb's in the transfer portal. Squirrel White's, left Vanderbilt with a sling. Brew McCoy that didn't play that last game. Dante Thornton didn't finish that game. Health-wise at wide receiver, Josh Heupel said on Monday that he thinks everybody's going to be ready to roll, but kind of where are they health-wise? And, if Squirrel is not in the slot for, a play or two, who could we see Tennessee putting in that slot receiver position?
That's a great question. I mean, they could go with, obviously Braylon Staley. They could slide somebody inside. If they're going to go with a more of a, I guess, pragmatic and streamlined approach, you probably just see them go with more 12 personnel, and go with 2 tight ends, and maybe they put Ethan Davis in the slot. That's something they've done a whole lot this year is played, 2 tight ends. And so that probably makes the most sense versus going with, an inexperienced player like Staley, who, even though Josh Heupel said, he's ready to play in this one, what's he supposed to say? I mean, he's still a freshman. You really put him out there in that kind of situation? I guess maybe it depends on the circumstance, but, it feels like Squirrel is preparing to be able to play, and that's a good sign for Tennessee. But even then, as we've seen all year, he's one hit or so away from coming right back out.
What have you guys seen from Nico this year that thinks you guys that has you guys thinking that he is prepared for this moment? Josh Heupel continued to say on Monday, he said it several times this year, that his ability to reset and move from one play to the next play, one quarter to the next quarter, has been really, really impressive. I go back to that Vanderbilt game, and I understand it's Vanderbilt, and this is a better Vanderbilt team, but you allow the opening kickoff, the re-return, your All-American running back fumbles, you're down 14-0 in the first 4 minutes of the game. You're facing 3rd and 8 or whatever. He hits that pass, and then later on another third down on that next offensive possession, and it's a touchdown. I thought that he showed the ability to respond in the right way. When things weren't going well, not necessarily for him, but for the team. Rob, what have you seen from Nico that thinks that the moment's not going to be too big, that he can lead this Tennessee offense down there and hopefully has some success early in this football game, and what's going to be a hostile environment on the road in the college football playoffs?
Oh, easy. Georgia. Athens, Georgia. No disrespect to Columbus, but what he's going to see up there, the pressure might be more, the stakes might be more, but as far as atmosphere, hostile environment, it's not going to be anything more than he saw in Athens, and neither is the challenge from, personnel, talent-wise, that he's going to see from that defense. And, Nico didn't dominate that game, but it wasn't too big for him by any stretch of the imagination. He moved the offense, he moved it from the from the jump. 10 points in the first quarter, and was under pressure all night long. Never had a panic throw. Had the late fumble when it was a 2-score game. But to me, just the way he handled things in Athens. He made plays. He made plays with his legs. Kept his eyes downfield when he was feeling heat all the time. And to me, it doesn't mean he's going to win in Columbus, but to me that means he's not going to shrink from what's going to be just an enormous national spotlight.
A lot of talented playmakers on the other side of the football for Ohio State, and Jeremiah Smith and Ibuka and Carnell Tate and some of these other really talented, Brandon Inus, talented wide receivers. You like the matchup with Jamal McCoy and Ricky Gibson. But Brent, I feel like this has got to be one of those games to where, and we'll see what Tennessee wants to do defensively. You got to be who you are, but you can't necessarily be married to one scheme. I would, mix it up a little bit. I'd be sending some pressure. I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of 4-3 in this football game with Caleb Perry as the third linebacker. I think that you'll see more of your base 4-2-5. But on Tim Banks, I'm kind of mixing some things up a little bit, and I'm trying to be who you are, which historically, under this regime, you've been a very aggressive defense. But I say all this because in certain games, Georgia felt like they were kind of simplistic in what they did. Florida last year felt like they were kind of married to what they did. I would be multiple a little bit when time's called for it, especially if you're searching for something that's working in this game.
Well, I think it goes back to winning early downs. how are you going to play third down? If it's 3rd and 6, how are you playing it versus 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10? I mean, Tennessee's played a lot of zone and 3rd and long situations, kept the ball in front of them and tackled guys before the sticks. We've also seen them, be in man coverage. I mean, you look at that Georgia game, they were out in man coverage. Florida, they played a good bit of man coverage. They played a ton of man coverage against Alabama. I mean, you go back to Ricky Gibson, he got away with a penalty, but I mean, they put him straight up. I mean, he's got Ryan Williams in man coverage when Jamon McCoy's out of the game, and they didn't flinch there. So, yeah, I mean, I think Tim Banks is going to try to heat the quarterback up. I think the question is going to be, how do you adjust? What do you adjust to as the game goes on? And, I think at Georgia they had a hard time getting to the quarterback, and I think Austin, they probably stayed a little married to their plan a little too long in terms of getting to the quarterback. And, if you're not getting there early, what do you do differently? And how do you adjust on the fly in this game on both sides of the ball with whatever newness that somebody throws at you? How does Tim Banks alter things? If plan B is not working or plan A is not working, what does his plan B look like to get Howard uncomfortable and not let them, get settled in and get in a rhythm?
Yeah, I mean, look at the offense. I mean, at points in times this year, they've really sputtered, especially in the first half. But adjustments have been made, and Tennessee's been able to do some things to have success on the offensive side of the ball in the second half. What adjustments can the defense make? I would tell you that I think Tennessee, needs to at least early on try to get home with their base and see what happens, and then adjust off of that. And I think you can sprinkle in the right blitz or two, even when you are, kind of going with your normal stuff early on. I think the pressure on Will Howard is the key in this game. I really do. I think James Pierce has to play a really good football game. I think Josh Josephs has to play a really good football game. And, when we taped the Rocky Top Roundtable this week, Brent Hubbs, brought up Omar Norman-Lott. I think his ability to be a pass rusher from the defensive tackle spot is something that, it can be a real advantage for Tennessee, especially with Ohio State being weaker in the middle. So, I do think you got to find a way to get pressure. Everybody can talk about Howard and his ability to move around. He still doesn't move around like Jalen Milroe. This is still much more of a statue, even if he's athletic enough to make plays, than some of the players Tennessee's went against this year, that have been able to do a lot of stuff off platform. He's not a great thrower off platform, in my opinion. I think he wants to be set up. Now, he likes to move around, but as long as he's set up while moving, if he's throwing on the move, he's not nearly as accurate. So I think being able to flush him and push him around, I think it's a big storyline in this game defensively for Tennessee.
Kind of last thing before we move into transfer portal conversation, we'll have our game picks later in the week, of course, and the rest of our game week content. But it feels like this game, anybody you talk to, it's going to be close, right? It's going to be a lower scoring, close. That's kind of what all the predictions are. I looked at CBS Sports, and 5 of the 8 panelists they had actually had Tennessee winning this game. Adam Rittenberg at ESPN has Ohio State winning this game. College Football Network has Ohio State winning this game. But there's been some Tennessee flavor as well, Rob. But for what kind of game are you expecting? And outside of what you already said, what does Tennessee need to do to pull off this upset on the road in the CFP?
Yeah, I'll be surprised if it's not low scoring. If either one of these teams gets to 30, I'll be really surprised. But I mean, it's not fabulous insight, but go back to what Coach Heupel says a lot, and that's just doing ordinary things at a really high level. And to me, that just means not letting the moment get you out of what you do. Be who you are. That's 2 years ago. I think that team wasn't ready. When they got to 8-0, they were ranked number 1. I think they looked around. They were like, holy crap! There's a lot on the line here, and I think they had to do something special to keep going. And this team, I don't feel like this team feels like they have to do anything special. I think, and to me, that's a long answer, Eric. I think they just got to be who they are. Just do the things they do. Run the football. Don't turn the football over. Stop the run on defense. Get off the field on 3rd down, and just don't let the moment get them out of what they are. And I don't think they will. And man, I've said it before, but I think Coach Heupel's mentality helps this team a lot in situations like this, because he doesn't shrink from this stuff. He loves it. And, he loves it. Same way he was as a player. I mean, he's fired up about the competition. And man, I think that bleeds over to his locker room big time.
Yeah, I agree, Rob. I think, if Tennessee were to go and win on this game on the road, I think you'll look back to that press conference after the Vanderbilt game where Heupel said, any place, anywhere, anytime. Like, he just kind of established the mindset right then and there. He wasn't going to sit around and go, man, we should have a home game. This isn't fair. Like, like he just established, like, hey, we're in the tournament, and that's all we could ask for. Let's go play. Let's go set the ball down and play.